With the 15th pick and with the 26th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Dwayne Haskins, Montez Sweat.
Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sister. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Luke. Thank you for joining me here, the Redskins Report Live. Lot to get to tonight. Free agency less than a week away. We've been talking about this, it feels like, for 2-3 months now about what the Redskins are going to do and how they're going to allocate this money that they have, that they've been pretty much saving for, it seems like 3-4 years now. All the cap savings they got from Kirk Cousins and not spending money on him, and no long-term deal for Trent Williams, and Kerrigan hasn't done it. We haven't done anything with his contract in terms of an extension. That may ultimately free up some more money if they decide to extend Kerrigan out. We'll see what happens with that situation. But all of this newfound money that the Redskins have seems like they're actually poised to spend some of it. We know that was not something Bruce Allen was fond of in free agency, was spending huge chunks of money. Every now and again, when an opportunity arose, like Deshaun Jackson, or Once Upon a Time, or Josh Norman, the Redskins opened up the wallet and coughed up a couple dollars. But more likely than not, there were more Kendall Reyes's being signed and Stephen Paya's being signed than there were guys of real note in this league. So this is a really exciting, anxious, but you know, it's sort of nerve-wracking at the same time, because we've been burned a couple of times in free agency over the years, and you want to be smart because you feel like we're going in the right direction. You want to add the right guys. We've been going with the "In Ron We Trust" moniker. I'm not moving off of that now. I think he and Kyle Smith and Alex Santos and all of those guys are going to get together, figure out which guys they want to target in free agency. There have been so many rumors. I told you it's lying season. So believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man, Louis T. It's a lot going on right now. You know, we've heard from Amari Cooper and Kenyon Drake, all the way to, you know, Hooper and Bradbury and all of these names being thrown out there. Some lesser names you may not have heard of. Some positions we really haven't talked about ad nauseum, like we have tight end and corner and, you know, some of these other positions. But linebacker is a position the Redskins could go after. Safety is a position I think they need to address. And maybe they do it via the draft. We'll see. A lot of things that are going to really start to come into focus as we head into next week. By Monday, we'll know a lot of things, and we'll probably be live several times next week as the tampering period begins on Monday. We're going to know about guys being signed by Monday. All right, we'll know. And officially, the new league year doesn't start until, I believe, Wednesday. But we'll know about all of the big signees by Monday. They would have already have agreed in principle. Now, things can change. We've seen this happen before, where a player decides that they want to sign with a team and then get cold feet. We saw Anthony Barr do it last year with the Jets. He had that long-term deal, big money from the Jets in place, got cold feet, went back to Minnesota. So just because a guy agrees in principle, if he hasn't signed his name on the dotted line yet, nothing is official, and guys can go back and change their mind. So we're going to hear a lot coming out by Monday. It's going to be a whirlwind type of week next week, but we're going to try to prepare ourselves for that this week by talking about a lot of the different topics that have come up. I want to first thank you guys for joining me on this stream. For those of you who are new, welcome. Make sure you subscribe to the Louis T Network for more great content. Make sure you also mash that like button while you're at it. Also, I gave you guys a scenario yesterday, and I want to thank every single one of you who participated in that. First of all, for watching the video. Second, for liking the video if you in fact did that. And thirdly, for actually leaving a comment. Most of you guys left comments, and I was able to kind of go through the comments, you know, with a fine-tooth comb. I took a tally. I could have just did it a poll, but a lot of you don't follow directions very well when it comes to, hey, go answer this poll. So I just figured I'd just leave it in the comment section and I would go through because I read the comments anyway. And I was surprised at the response. So For those of you who didn't watch the video or need a quick recap, I gave a scenario out yesterday. Redskins are going to spend $25 million either way. Which way would you rather spend it? I gave you option A of James Bradberry at $15 million and tight end Austin Hooper at $10 million as option A, or a total of $25 million. Or I gave you option B. And really, you guys, I saw a couple of you say, oh, well, Darren Fells is going to re-sign with the Texans. It doesn't really, like, you were missing the point. It doesn't really matter who that tight end 2 option is, that TE2 option. It could be Jimmy Graham, and you could play around with the numbers, and I get it. But Bashad Breeland isn't worth $12 million. I'm not saying he is. I just wanted to make the numbers fit. Breeland could be $10 million. All right. Kendall Fuller could be $8 million, and Jimmy Graham could be $7 million. I mean, it doesn't matter. Whatever tight end you want to fill into that blank, you fill into that blank. It won't be the caliber of Austin Hooper, though. He's the cream of the crop in this year's tight end free agency class. And Hunter Henry is going to be franchise tagged by the Los Angeles Chargers by all accounts if they don't reach a long-term deal. So you can take him out of the mix because I told you I like Hunter Henry a ton. I just don't expect him, and which is why I didn't talk about him a lot. I don't expect him to become a free agent. That being said, I gave you option B as Bashad Breeland at $12 million, Kendall Fuller at $8 million, and then Darren Fells at $5 million. But again, you can fill in the blanks with that tight end position with any tight end that you like that's a free agent. I mean, it could have been Blake Jarwin, okay? Whoever, it doesn't matter. $5 million was allocated to that tight end, all right? And I was surprised because I thought it was going to be overwhelmingly option B. I was expecting everyone to be nostalgic. Oh, man, I never wanted Kendall Fuller to leave. And, you know, Bree was a guy that we thought could get better and yada, yada, yada. And I was shocked to see that it was a lot of option A's. Like, yo, I don't want to go down the Bree Avenue again. We went down that road. It was cool the first time. I don't need to go back. There were some of you that were like, hey, I like those dudes, but I'd rather get guys that I feel like are going to be number ones, because I feel like in Bradberry and Hooper, you're getting a CB1 and a TE1. In Bashad Breeland and Kendall Fuller, or the tight end, whomever that guy is, and for the sake of argument and the purpose of the discussion we had yesterday, Darren Fells, none of those guys are number one at their positions. I don't think Bree's a number one corner in this league. I know that Kendall Fuller isn't a number one corner, but we weren't asking him to do that when he was in Washington. We were smart. We stuck him in the slot and he excelled there. I think the Chiefs got a little greedy, similar to what we did with Josh Norman, put him outside, and I think he had some struggles. Let me say this too. Let me just recap. It was pretty much split down the middle. Now, I went back like 15 minutes ago, and there were a couple more option Bs, so that pushed option B over the top. But when I initially took the tally, it was 34 option A's, 34 option B's, and 7 option C's. Some of you guys just didn't answer the question, and I appreciate you as well. You went off on a tangent and started talking about Tua or something else that had nothing to do with the video. Then there were some of you who said, look, I want option C. You created your own option. You said, look, how about we do a little mash of both of these? Like, I want Fuller, I want Hooper. Let's put that together, and we'll figure out the rest of that stuff. I'm good on Bree. I don't need Bradberry. Don't want to pay $15 million for him. But I'd take Fuller. I'd take Hooper. Put those guys together. That's my option C. And it was about 7 of you who did that. So I thought it was a really good poll of where you guys were in terms of your thought process. I was shocked. Thought it would be more option Bs, way more option Bs than option As. And it was actually pretty pleasant to see that a lot of people thought that option A would be a good choice. I myself am an option A guy myself. I don't anticipate the Redskins. You know what's crazy is I've waffled during this process. I think they're going to go after Hooper. I'm not sure they're going to go after Bradberry if that price tag is as high as reported. They could go in a cheaper direction because Ron Rivera has never really been a guy that spent big money in free agency. So you got to kind of look at the track record before you start making assumptions, because people tell you that the Redskins think this is a quick turnaround. Rivera himself said he thinks this is a quick turnaround. And if that is in fact true, then maybe they are aggressive. I just don't think they're uber aggressive. I think they are aggressive because they know they have to be aggressive if they want a guy like Hooper. And I do think they really want Hooper. They understand the tight end position is not very stacked in the draft, and they understand they need a guy. They don't have anyone at that position. So I do think they're going to be aggressive after Austin Hooper. But after that, I think the Redskins are going to kind of feel out the market at receiver. I wouldn't be shocked. Off the pace position that they may spend on, I wouldn't be shocked if they spent that safety. I still think that if the Vikings don't do something, and I've been hearing rumors about them trying to find a way, they're scrambling, shuffling their papers, as Joe Gibbs used to say, trying to figure out ways to clear up cap space to get Anthony Harris back. They really want him back. I don't think they're in a position to franchise him. And so they're trying to redo deals, and they're trying to figure out ways to create enough cap space to get him back, because there's going to be a market for Anthony Harris. And I'm not sure the Redskins aren't in on that market. You haven't heard the Redskins rumored to him very often throughout this process, but that could be a name worth watching. But we'll see what happens. Anyhow, wanted to address that. There was something that I was about to talk about, and I forgot that quickly. Anyway, maybe someone will bring it up and we'll end up talking about it again tonight. Anyway, want to go ahead and set the table for you guys. You guys know the rules to the game to play. So quickly, I'll go over them. Behave yourselves in the chats, please. Okay. That being said, number one, super chats come first. Okay. So we read those first. Number two, it's the phone lines, and I'll go ahead and make that available right now. So there goes the number. Number three is the chat discussion. Make sure you use the hashtag LouisTLive to have your comment read on the air. If we get to the comments, usually, not gonna lie to you, it gets crazy with the super chats and the calls, and we usually don't get to too many comments, but you never know. So just, if you're going to use the hashtag to try to have your comment read, make sure it's pertinent. And again, if you're gonna call in, make sure you're concise. You know what you want to say. Make sure you're not rambling. Make sure your connection is strong. Make sure your volume is up so we can hear you. And also make sure you are able to get to what you want to say and get out. All right. That being said, let's get to the comment section, and you guys can fire away. Phone lines are open, and see what we got. All right. Let's see. Truth Be Told says, if Skins can sign Scherff, would it be advantageous to put the tag on Trent if he cannot negotiate a contract with any team, forcing him and any team's hand by midseason interest for a better pick? I don't think the route to go is a franchise tag with Trent, because it then locks the Redskins into the franchise tag number, which is higher than the $12 million that he's slated to earn this season. So that's number one. Number two, you then put yourself in a position, let's say that you can't find a suitor for Trent this season, and he has to play for the $12 million. And let's say you're like, we're not letting Trent walk for just a compensatory third-round pick. That's not the move here. Let's say Trent comes back, has a really strong campaign in 2020. All right, so he has to play for the Redskins, and he can't find a trade. And he comes out, he balls in 2020, plays really well, and he's slated to get a really big deal from someone after showing that he's back and better than ever. The Redskins could then use the franchise tag and get some compensation for him if he wants out in that particular scenario. And if you use it this year, then that goes up by like 30% the following year, or whatever it is, 25%, whatever that number is, 24%, something like that, where you multiply the franchise tag from the previous year by that number because you did it for a second consecutive year. So you take that ability away from you if you were to find yourself in a predicament where Trent didn't get traded and he had to play and he really balled out, and now he's going to leave in free agency. Instead of allowing him to walk, you may be able to franchise, sign, and trade him to somewhere else. And so that's where a franchise tag may be a better use of next year than this year. So right now, I think the chief concern for the Redskins is just trying to move Trent. I don't think they're going to find a long-term deal with Brandon Scherff prior to the deadline, which they pushed back yet again. I think they're going to end up having to franchise tag Brandon Scherff. But in the event that they do get that done, I don't think using the franchise tag on Trent would be a very wise move. Thank you for that comment. We got our first super chat of the night, and it comes from Curtis Owens. Thank you for the super chat, Curtis Owens. Greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, Curtis Owens, for the super chat. He writes, "No one is going to pay Trent what he is asking for. Do you think the plan all along in allowing him to seek a trade on his own was to show that he has overinflated his own value?" You know what? There could be a little bit of that, gamesmanship by the Redskins, but I don't think that's really what they're after at this point. You know, that kind of thought process is small-minded. It's petty. That's something that the old regime would have done. That's something that Bruce Allen would have done to try to make Trent feel small. Remember, the Redskins last year tried to make it seem as if nobody wanted Trent when that was not the case. We knew teams were interested, like the Texans. The Browns multiple times came out and said, we keep trying to contact the Redskins. They won't even pick up the phone. So there were teams interested. They tried to make it seem like teams weren't interested last year. This is the thing. I told you, I think that personally, Trent's number for another team won't be as high as it is for the Redskins. I really think that the number is astronomical for us because he wants to put the number so high that the Redskins won't meet it. Because as I told you before, Trent wants out. He does not want to be here. All right. His heart was gone last year. All right. His mind, his body, his spirit, all of that gone from Washington last season. All right. So he wants out. And so in order to facilitate that, you set that number at a ridiculous total where you know the Redskins aren't going to meet that. You make your demands so high that the Redskins say, all right, man, you go find a trade. You go find a team that's going to pay you that. Now, he gets with another team, and that number comes down from 20 to 18. You know, that number comes down from 18 to 18, or 20 to 18 and a half. But I think that number was really high for the Redskins because he didn't want the Redskins to actually say, hey, we'll pay you that. So there could be a little bit of that, but I think it's more about the Redskins legitimately wanting to move him. And if Trent is able to find a team that is willing to pay him, then the Redskins will say, all right, well, what's the compensation? And that's when you start sitting down at the table and trying to iron out a deal that makes sense for both parties involved. So I think that's going to be the part that we find the most hard to get done. I think that's going to be the most difficult part of this thing. It's not the team willing to pay Trent. I think there are teams out there that will be willing to pay Trent Williams, believe it or not. I do. I really do. I think the problem is going to be finding the compensation. And let me ask you guys something. And I was going to do a video on this, and I said, I'll just wait till Wednesday. Would you take 2 threes for Trent? Like the Jets have 2 third-round picks, and one is relatively high. Would you do 2 third-round picks for Trent? I wanted to. I've already stated my position. If you're not, and I don't want just any 2. I've already told you guys this. I want a relatively high number 2. So my stance is what it is. I don't know if that's a hardline stance that the Redskins will maybe have to come off of, but like the Texans at 50, I don't want that. I don't want the back end of the second round. I want the early portion, because almost like Trent trying to recoup the money that he should have made last year. I'm trying to somewhat recoup the second round pick that I gave up last year in the deal to come back up and get Montez Sweat. We would have had the second pick in the second round. Think about that for a second. You're not getting that back. But I want to get as close to that pick as I can. And I just want my 2 back, essentially. You know, so it is what it is at the end of the day. But thank you for the super chat, Curtis Owens. And now the super chats are flowing. Let's get to them. Matthew Manos, thank you for the super chat, Matthew Manos. Really appreciate it, Matthew Manos. Thank you again. Matthew writes, no comment, just supporting HTTR. Thank you for the super chat, Matthew Manos. Really appreciate that. Barrett Downing, my man, BD. What's going on, Barrett Downing? Thank you for the super chat, as always, BD. Greatly appreciate it. My man, Barrett writes, good having you take up my longing for football to come back. Thanks for what you do. Thank you for what you do and all the support that you bless the program with. Thank you, Barrett Downing, once again. And I have a feeling that won't be the last time I thank you tonight. Trevor Patch, thank you for the super chat. Trevor Patch, greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, Trevor, for the super chat. Trevor writes, hey, Lou, out of left field here. Did you see Virginia legalize gambling at the 12th hour? How many pockets do you think Dan had to grease to get that through, to get a new stadium built here in Virginia? Yes, I did see that, and I actually heard some reporting about that. I didn't know how interested you guys were about the stadium, which is why I didn't really do a video or anything about it, because it's so far down the road. It's really off the horizon, so to speak. I mean, this contract with FedEx Field isn't up till 2027. So, talking about a stadium that is 7 years from you even having a chance to move into, it's kind of hard for me to do, because I'm a guy that I have a tough time looking a week into the future, let alone 7 years into the future. But to answer your question, yes, I saw that Virginia passed it. And the crazy part about all this legislation about gambling and all of this stuff is just, it's dumb, because by the time the Redskins actually get the stadium built, wherever it is, whether it's in Maryland, D.C., or VA, and it sounds more likely than not it's going to end up in either Maryland or Virginia, because it sounds like D.C., as the days pass, it's going to be less and less likely that it ends up where it should be, which is in D.C. at the old RFK site. But that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is gambling is going to be legalized in all of those areas, all those states, by 2027. So the fact that they need reassurance right now, it really is, to me, a non-issue. But he then made it a point to try to make sure that it was done now. And, I guess it was more of an eliminator of sorts. If he didn't get it now, before he gets into negotiations about land potentially and, actually starting the process, if he didn't get it now, then that was going to rule, that state out. But Virginia right now seems like they're the front runner, because DC, which is where everyone wants the stadium, doesn't seem like they're going to cooperate. So, Dan had to probably pull some strings. You're right. He had to grease some pockets potentially. He actually went down there himself to make sure that it got done. So I find it very interesting that he went out of his way, and then there's supposed to be this secret location in Virginia. Now everybody's trying to do their due diligence and their detective work to find out where this secret location is in Virginia, where they could potentially build the stadium. It's a mess. I know that much. We'll find out more about this as the months progress. Bottom line is, this is a process that has a long way to go. And I ultimately think either this thing is going to end up in D.C., the harbor site in Maryland, or it's going to end up in the site where it is now at FedEx Field, and they're just going to have to redo it, and which nobody wants. But we'll see what happens at the end of the day. Once again, thank you for the super chat, Trevor Patch. Got another super chat, this one from my man Barrett Downing. I had a feeling you would be back, as always. Double up, for my man Barrett Downing, BD. Thank you for the super chat. Barrett writes, any ideas on a realistic backup, because Alex may not want to or even be ready? All right, so that's an interesting thing that we haven't really talked about. And I thought about doing a video on it, but I didn't. There's been I've been listening to a lot of podcasts that have had this discussion as to what the Redskins would do at the quarterback position because of Dwayne and more specifically because of Alex Smith. And would the Redskins go out and we're going to find out. Time is going to reveal everything here shortly, because there's been rumors that the Redskins are going to go after Teddy Bridgewater. There's no way in hell the Redskins are going out and signing Teddy Bridgewater. I don't care what Ron Rivera said in terms of he wants some real competition. He said competitive competition was his exact phrase he used when describing the kind of competition he wants for Dwayne Haskins. Competitive competition is what he said. There's no way they're bringing in Teddy Bridgewater, because you're going to have to pay Teddy Bridgewater starters money. They're already paying Alex Smith starters money. They're not going to pay another quarterback big-time starting dollars to come in here and compete. That's not what the Redskins are looking to do. So Dwayne is the guy. All right. They're going to go out, and I think they're going to get a mid-level backup. And what I mean by that is you're going to see one of the guys that's a career backup. You're not going to see someone come in here. I don't even think they're bringing in a Marcus Mariota. And I think that's as high a backup as you're going to get, is a guy like Marcus Mariota. But I don't even think they want that kind of pressure on Dwayne. That's the kind of pressure that if Dwayne has 3 rough games to start the season off, you're going to get some people out there saying, hey, put Marcus Mariota in. They want a backup where doesn't matter how bad Dwayne plays, nobody's looking for the backup to be put into the game because they know this guy is a backup. All right. So you're going to be looking at that kind of a backup quarterback, I think. Someone that has established themselves as a backup in this league. We've mentioned a few names like a Brett Hundley or a Chase Daniel, one of those types of guys. I say don't be surprised if Ron Rivera goes sniffing around Kyle Allen, who is a restricted free agent. I don't know if the Panthers are going to put a real tender on him or not. Let's say the Panthers put a sixth-round tender on him. Okay, fine. Like Ron Rivera wouldn't be shied away from signing Kyle Allen if there's a sixth-round tender put on him. But if there's, and they're not going to put a second-round tender on him because with these tenders come a certain amount of money you have to pay that guy. Like the Saints put a first-round tender on their quarterback, Taysom Hill, and that comes with like a $6 or $7 million price tag, I believe. And a lot of people were outraged. Oh my God, you're going to pay Taysom Hill this much money. Well, they believe in Taysom Hill. If you believe in your guy, you're going to put that kind of tender on him because you're daring someone else to come and snatch him away. And if they do, they got to cough up that draft pick. So I think you're going to see a mid-level backup. The likes of I always forget the kid's name from UCLA. That was with Green Bay, and Brett Hundley, that's his name. Brett Hundley or Chase Daniel, as I mentioned, one of those types of guys in the league that's been a backup, that's going to continue to be a backup. That's the kind of guy I think you're going to see the Redskins bring in here. I don't think you're going to – the rumors of Phillip Rivers and Teddy Bridgewater, all that stuff is unfounded, and I think it's a farce, to be honest with you. So thank you once again, BD, for the Super Chat. Got another Super Chat. This one from Timothy Wells. Timothy, thank you for the Super Chat. Greatly appreciate it. Timothy Wells, thank you once again. Timothy writes, Lou, Trent for Njoku and a fourth. Thoughts? P.S. You look like Josh Doxson. I'm gonna be honest with you. First of all, Josh Doxson looks like me. I'm older than him. So he looks like me. He may be the more famous of the two of us, but he looks like me because I'm older. I was here first. All right. That being said, I do think Josh Doxson looks like me. He does. I'm not going to lie. Normally people tell me I look like somebody and I'm like, okay, yeah. Because I get that all the time. I get that I look like somebody. And it's random people. You'd be surprised at all the people that people tell me I look like. All right. But I actually do think Josh Doxson looks like me. Yes. If you thought he was my brother or we were twins, I don't blame you. We do look eerily similar. Okay. That being said, no. Okay. Trent with Njoku and a fourth. Here's the problem with that. I would take Njoku in a heartbeat. All right. In the Browns' mind, Njoku plus a fourth might be good compensation. How about Njoku in a third? I'd do that quickly. All right. But Njoku in a fourth, and that's probably more along the lines of the package that the Browns would present if they were actually thinking about giving away Njoku. Now, I was listening to the Redskins Talk podcast featuring J.P. Finley and all those guys, and they had Mary Kate Cabot on their program, which she is, when you think of the Browns and their beat, you think of Mary Kate Cabot, if you've been following the NFL for any amount of time. She's the main beat writer and the main source for a lot of Browns content that comes out. So they had her on the podcast, and she said, look, the Browns, their new staff, remember, they got a brand new general manager, brand new head coach, and this GM seems to be really fired up about David Njoku, and it sounds like he doesn't want Njoku to go anywhere, and Njoku didn't get along with their head coach, Freddie Kitchens, last year, and for good reason. Freddie Kitchens was in over his head, and I told anyone that would listen, if you listen to the podcast, that Freddie Kitchens, he came about it all wrong last year. Him and Baker Mayfield, I thought, were all wrong in their approach to last season, and they were going to pay, and they did. And so Njoku didn't get along with him, and he kind of wanted out if Freddie Kitchens was going to remain on board, but Freddie is now gone. They got Andrew Berry in there now as their general manager. It's a new day, and it just seems like they're content on keeping Njoku, and it sounds like Njoku has worked really hard to get into great shape because last year was a down year for him, marred by injuries. Sounds like he's staying in Cleveland, but, we say that now, and then the Trent situation pops up, and they get into a heated discussion, and the Redskins say, hey, if you don't want to give up the second, how about Njoku in a fourth? Maybe the Browns jump at that opportunity. I would personally like a third attached with Njoku, and I'm being greedy, all right? Because I think Trent is worth the first round pick, not even a second, but we missed that boat. So you have to settle for a second. If you told me I didn't have a choice, like no one else was offering anything that I thought was remotely close to what was going to get a deal done, and you came at me with Njoku in a fourth, I would seriously consider it, but I would prefer Njoku in a third. But it's something that I would definitely give some thought to. And if I was up against a wall and my back was firmly planted against the wall, I think I would probably take that deal. But I would explore every option because I truly want a second. And if I'm getting a player that I really like involved, I think I then dial it back to a third. But, it's probably more feasible for that to be a fourth and a player than a third and a player. So we'll see. But really good comment there. Timothy Wells, thank you for the super chat. Rob Weta with the super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Rob Weta. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Rob, thank you once again for the super chat. Rob writes, thanks for all you do, Lou. Appreciate you. If the Skins draft Chase, who do you see as the starting four in the 4-3 scheme? Does Sweat shift to linebacker? No. All right. So to me, this is how it goes. Early on, you may see, and it just depends on, how Ron Rivera wants to attack this thing, how guys play in camp and what they show on the field, in film, on practice film, on game film in terms of the preseason. But I think Chase Young is a day one starter. I think you're going to see Allen and Payne start. It would not shock me. Payne is going to start. There's no way Daron Payne isn't your starter. Now, the real question, I think, comes with Allen and Ioannidis. I think they start Allen, and Ioannidis is the first guy off the bench in that rotation. But it wouldn't shock me if Ioannidis is in next to Payne. But I think they would go Allen, Payne, and then the question would be, does Montez Sweat start, or is it Kerrigan that starts? Personally, I think your front four looks like this. Sweat, Allen, Payne, and Young. That's the front four that you're going to see. And then you're going to see Kerrigan, rotating in very often along with Ioannidis. And there may be one or two other guys in there. Caleb Brantley, I don't know where he is. He continues to get injured. But, obviously there's Tim Settle. Don't forget about Tim Settle. And I think he will actually benefit from this as well because he played in a 4-3 defense at Virginia Tech when he was allowed to be a one-gap penetrator. That's what I fell in love with. The Tim Settle I fell in love with was the Tim Settle at Virginia Tech that was a one-gap penetrator. Not the two-gapper that's eating up space and blockers, trying to free up backers. The Tim Settle I fell in love with was a guy that would roll into the backfield, blow shit up, and disrupt the play. Even if he was out of his gap. Even if he guessed wrong, he was in the backfield creating havoc. And so I think you're going to see Tim Settle get back to doing that as well. So it's going to be a ferocious front four. Whomever is out there, I feel confident that we can really stir some shit up this year. All right, so, but I think to answer your question, the front four is going to be Sweat and Chase Young as your two defensive ends. And I think they're going to go with the Bama boys inside, Allen and Payne, with Kerrigan, Settle, and Ioannidis as your rotational depth. And you're going to see them keeping these guys very fresh on the football field. So, that's how I see that transpiring. Thank you for the super chat once again, Rob, and great comment. J.R. Hicksonball, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. J.R. Hicksonball, thank you so much, J.R. J.R. writes, what do you think of Prince Tega Wagano as our offensive tackle? This is a guy with some injury history out of Auburn, really athletically gifted tackle. If he can stay healthy, that's a guy that is very intriguing out of Auburn. Again, where will he end up going? Because the talent is definitely there, but there are some medicals that need to be checked out with him. But he's a guy that I think if the Redskins are able, because I feel like there are going to be so many guys that come off the board early along the offensive line that you're going to see guys get pushed up. He's not getting pushed into the first round. That's not the angle I'm taking here. I think, though, you'll start to see that pool of tackles thin out by the time you get towards the third round where the Redskins currently sit. A guy like Prince Wano might be around in the third round, but I'm thinking that late second round is when he's going to probably come off the board. And so I think if you're the Redskins, if you want him, you're going to have to probably be in the second round range. And so we'll see what happens. I wouldn't mind him as a guy the Redskins go after, but I've heard Redskins fans speak, and they've said it loud and clear. They don't want to do the injured, damaged goods guy coming out of college with an injury history, which is why he dropped in the draft, and we're getting a steal. They don't want that guy anymore. And I don't blame them. It's a new staff, and maybe we won't have the same issues, but if a guy's had an injury history, there's an injury history there. You can't ignore it. And so from an athletic standpoint, I wouldn't mind him at all. But if you tell me I've got a choice between he and another guy that's healthy, doesn't have the injury history of a Prince, and they're somewhat equal, all things aside, I'd take like an Ezra Cleveland, for instance, the tackle out of Boise that I told you might be there in the third round and might be a great option for the Redskins if all else fails. I can see him going off the board in the second round, though, because, again, these tackles are going to get pushed up. And so Ezra Cleveland had a strong combine. I could see him vaulting into the second round. So, anyhow, thank you for the super chat. All right, got another super chat. This one from Redskins Pride W Gill. Thank you, Redskins Pride W Gill. Greatly appreciate the super chat. Redskins Pride writes, Lou, everyone knew the day was coming. Why not do Scherff's deal early? Again, that's a question for the last administration. This should have been done a long time ago. We've talked about this as fans for the last 2 years now. Hey, go ahead and get Scherff out of the way. And they allowed this thing to linger. And normally you don't allow guys to get, if you really are serious about keeping a guy, you don't allow this thing to get into the final year, especially on that rookie deal. By the time you get to that fourth year of a rookie contract, you pretty much know if you feel like this guy is a part of the plan moving forward. In certain instances, like with the Jameis Winston, for instance, yeah, you want that fifth year option. So you pick it up to see if this guy can prove to you once and for all he belongs. But for the most part, you already know by year 4, okay, this guy is a cornerstone. He's going to be a building block. We need to get this deal done. And the Redskins had every opportunity to go to Brandon Scherff, especially when he got injured. They could have went to him with a deal that made a ton of sense, and he probably would have signed it. They squandered that opportunity. Now we find ourselves here. A deal's going to get done, I believe. And you don't franchise a guy, because this isn't the last administration. You're not franchising Kirk Cousins, multiple times. All right? They're not going to do that same thing here with Brandon Scherff. You're not franchising him this year with the plans of doing it again next year. They're looking to franchise him with a big time deal in mind with Brandon Scherff. And so I think it's going to get done. It's just a matter of making the numbers fit. And I think if they could have gotten him on a less lucrative deal, they would have already did it. But Scherff isn't going for a less lucrative deal. He wants to be the highest paid guard in the league, and it's going to happen. But I think the Redskins are like, all right, well, if we're going to pay you that money, let's see how much we spend in free agency first. You're going to get your deal, though. And I think they kind of want to make sure they have enough bread to reallocate everywhere. And we're going to find out how good this Rob Rogers guy is, because I think they're going to spend a little bit of money. But you got to get the Scherff deal done. And you also, and remember, keep this in mind, you also have other deals on the horizon that you have to be in a position to get done. Now, the new CBA is going to flood in a whole bunch of new money when that finally gets finalized, whether it's this year or next. But that's going to come with a bunch of new money. But for the time being, you just want to make sure you're in a position to sign your guys that come up. And there's still John Bostic out there. There's still Eric Flowers out there that may be re-signed. So there are some guys that they may want to keep in-house. So we'll see what happens. But they should have done this Scherff deal already. You're right. They had opportunity to do it. They didn't. And it's a shame because it should have already been done. And you know the comment that I forgot about earlier that I said I was going to say? Chiefs fans. I've talked to a number of Chiefs fans over the last 48 hours or so. And remember, I kept talking about Kendall Fuller moving to safety. And I said, I watched enough Chief games, and he was at safety quite a bit. And I don't know what the basis for that was. Well, I talked to a number of Chiefs fans, and they kind of echoed the same thing. Like, neither one of those guys were exceptional. Breland was the better of the two. They said that Fuller was constantly getting beat, and they ultimately moved him to safety. And I thought he did some good things at safety for them. They said he was in the right place at the right time at safety, not necessarily great at it, but he was in the right place at the right time, whatever that means. Bottom line is, like I said, maybe they were using him wrong. I don't know. You know what I mean? But just keep that in mind. They weren't stellar in Kansas City, but everybody's system is different. So with that being said, got another super chat. Going to read that. Damn Twin Shorty Sublime. Thank you for the super chat. Damn Twin Shorty Sublime. Appreciate the support. Damn Twin writes, if we move Trent and recoup that 12.5 mil, could we be in the market for Conklin as our high purchase free agent to replace Trent? Keep doing what you're doing. He says, doing what you do, Lou. Best show on YouTube, HTTR. Thank you so much for that. So here's the thing on Jack Conklin. That's another name that I don't think we haven't mentioned. He's the biggest left tackle, or tackle, because Conklin, technically speaking, is a right tackle. And a lot of you mention moving a right tackle to left tackle as if it's something that you can just do like that. Like it's something you just do overnight. Conklin, yes, was a left tackle at Michigan State coming into the draft, but he was moved to right tackle. He's played there the first 5 years of his career. It's hard to switch a guy. The footwork, the technique, the hand you use to punch, everything shifts when you switch from left to right or right to left. And so you're paying Jack Conklin for being a right tackle. You're not paying him to be a left tackle. If you spend big money, and remember, left tackles get paid more than right tackles. Now, both are getting paid, but right tackle doesn't get paid as much as left tackle. If you're paying Jack Conklin to come in and be your left tackle, you're going to pay him a bunch of money, and you're not sure what the hell you're going to get. Because if he comes in here and he struggles making that transition back to left tackle, you can't just say, all right, well, we're going to kick him to right tackle. Morgan Moses, you go to left. You're screwed. So, no, you really don't want to. You don't really want to spend that kind of money on a guy and not have him play the position that's going to get him paid. That's almost like paying a guard and saying, hey, man, we need you to go to tackle. You played it in college. We need you to go to tackle. You know, you're paying him to be a guard or you're paying him to be a right tackle. That's what you want to pay for. You pay him to be a left tackle. He comes in and he struggles. Now you got to move him to right tackle potentially, and you're paying him left tackle money. So I don't see that happening. I see Jack Conklin ending up with a team that has a right tackle need. And really, you got to have two sound tackles in this league. It's not what it once was, where you could hide your lesser tackle at the right side and teams wouldn't go after you. Now teams are moving around their best pass rushers. They're sending blitzes to take advantage of weak links, whether that's at guard or tackle. They're finding the guy that's a weak link on your offensive line. If you have multiple, they're going to come after you hard and heavy. So you got to have two in this league, one on each end. You have to have bookend tackles. I don't think Conklin's going to end up here, but I wouldn't be shocked if, the Redskins talked about that in their meetings, leading up to free agency. I wouldn't be surprised if they had discussions about Jack Conklin and would he be able to fit along this offensive line. But I don't see the Redskins going after him as their high purchase free agent. I think their high purchase free agent probably ultimately ends up being Austin Hooper if they can get to him before, say, a Green Bay or someone else like that is able to get to him. Thank you once again for the super chat, Damn Twin. Gally Sanford, thank you for the super chat, Gally Sanford. Greatly appreciate it, Gally Sanford. Thank you for the super chat. Gally writes, just wanted to show some support. Take this time to talk about whatever you want. Appreciate you, Gally. Really do appreciate that. And so, like I said, it'll be interesting to see what the Redskins decide to do, Because you know what I'm starting to get a sense of is that the Redskins are going to not divulge that kind of bread to James Bradberry. I think they're going to look to go. And remember what I told you. And I told you this 3 weeks ago now. That Byron Jones is the pace car for the cornerback position. Despite what you may think about James Bradberry, he's not going to be the highest paid free agent corner in this class. The new pace car for the league at the cornerback position is going to be Byron Jones. I expect Byron Jones to be the first cornerback signed, and I expect him to be signed for the most money. He's going to reset the cornerback market, and then James Bradberry and Chris Harris Jr. and all these other guys, Bradley Roby, they're all going to fall in line under what he gets paid. Byron Jones is going to get paid 17, 18 million potentially at the cornerback position. Someone's going to break him off, okay? So a Bradberry is going to be at 15, 16 probably. And I don't know if the Redskins are willing to pay that kind of money for James Bradberry, okay? I think they're going to try to go because, remember, Dunny's still here. Fabian Moreau is still here. It's not like we don't have any. It's not like the tight end position where you're like, man, we don't have nothing. All right? We don't got nothing. We at least, if we didn't get anything in the draft or free agency, we could start the season off with Dunny and Fab Moreau at corner and Jimmy Moreland in the slot. Worst case scenario. We have enough guys to field a team and feel confident that we're not going to just get torched. Okay? So we're not as desperate at corner. You don't have to go spend top dollar. You got to spend top dollar at tight end because you don't have anything. In the draft, unlike corner, you could probably go in the draft and find a corner or two and feel confident. Even if it's in the third or the fourth round, you can find a guy at corner. You're not finding, most likely, and I don't want to say you can't find a guy in the fourth round because this is a draft where it's backloaded because there aren't any elite prospects. But that doesn't mean one of these guys can't emerge. 2-3 years down the road, we look up and say, man, goddamn, that Cole Kmet out of Notre Dame, man, he's a beast. What round they get him in, the fourth round? Damn, he's good. What round they get him in, the second round, third round? So we could go, down the line, man. We were wrong about that Bryson Hopkins kid out of Purdue, man. He looks really good. Like, we could be wrong about some of these dudes, but right now, none of these guys jump off the screen. So tight end is the position I think they're going to be willing to spend top dollar on. Maybe not corner. So thank you once again, Gally Sanford, for the super chat. Andrew Thompson. My man AT, Andrew Thompson. What's going on, Drew? As always, thank you for the super chat, Drew. Greatly appreciated. Andrew Thompson writes, "Sup, Lou? What did you think about the Haskins to Diggs tweet?" I didn't make much of it, man. It didn't register for me. Look, these kids are young, man. And they do a lot of things that I personally wouldn't do. Tweeting out an animated picture of Haskins throwing to Diggs and saying, DC connection. It's cool. Diggs is from the area, so that's where the DC connection thing comes in. I think if you asked Stephon Diggs where he would like to play, I think he wants to come home. I think there is some truth to that, but he's not going anywhere. The Vikings aren't trading him. It doesn't make any sense. We do this every year with Stephon Diggs. He's not going anywhere. They're not trading him, and I don't think he wants out necessarily. Again, if he had a preference, I think he would like to come home, but it's not like he's like, get me out of here. I want to, like Trent right now wants out. He's not screaming that he wants out. Stephon Diggs is fine. I didn't have a problem with the tweet. Would I have done it? No. Was it necessary? No. But it's what these young boys do, man, these days. It's a lot of subs out there, subliminal tweets where you got to try to kind of convey the message and figure out what they were trying to say. And, it's a lot of sneak dissing going on. I don't get into a lot of that Twitter stuff and Instagram and all that stuff. As a wise man once told me, I'm about that action, boss. And so all the stuff that goes on in the offseason, I let them talk about that. I let them react to it. I let them overblow it. And I just listen. I take it all in, and I keep it moving. I didn't have that much to say about that. To be honest with you, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Personally, I would prefer him not do this. This is the second time he's done this. He's been actively recruiting guys. He did it with Antonio Brown. I know he's worked out with Antonio in the past in Florida, so AB might be his boy. But he when AB was available last offseason, he was trying to recruit him here. I would prefer him not do these things, but at the end of the day, I really don't care. I really don't. Thanks again for the super chat, AT. Really appreciate that, Drew. Corey Vaughn has the next super chat. Appreciate it, Corey Vaughn. Corey says, really appreciate the super chat, Corey Vaughn. Really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Corey writes, good evening, Lou. First time viewer, just want to show some support, HTTR. Welcome to the show, Corey. Thank you for your support. Make sure you sub up if you haven't already done so. And welcome on this journey, man. Welcome on this roller coaster ride that is the Washington Redskins here on the Louis T Network, man. You will not be disappointed. Buckle your seatbelt. You're in for a hell of a ride. But thank you so much for joining us, and welcome, man. As I mentioned, you won't be disappointed. Look forward to chopping it up with you in the near future, and thank you for your super chat, Corey Vaughn. John Saluter is next up. My man John, thank you so much, John Saluter. Really appreciate it. Thank you for the super chat, John. John writes, do we have a chance for Jason Peters? Also, I'm super excited to see Terry's second year. Do we have a chance at Jason Peters? Absolutely we do. And anytime a guy feels like he can still play and the team that he left doesn't want him back, isn't reciprocating that energy, and I don't think there's any ill will between Jason Peters and the Eagles, but you usually want to stick it to your former team. And again, I don't think there's ill will here. So I don't think he's anxious to get back in the division and get back like Deshaun Jackson was. You know what I mean? Like Des Bryant was at one time when he got released by the Cowboys and wanted to come to Washington. I don't think it's one of those situations. I think, honestly, whomever is willing to pay him the most money, he's going to be like a hired gun this year. Whomever is willing to pay him the most money, I think that's where he's going to end up. And, you know, if Cincinnati's like, yo, we'll pay you 1 year, $10 million. If Cleveland's like, yo, we'll pay you 1 year, $10.5 million, you know, then he may go to Cincinnati or he may go to Cleveland, you know. And I think he also wants a chance to win. But I think at this point of his career, having already won a chip, it's all about that final payday. And if he can get a 1 or even a 2-year deal, a team signs him to a 2-year deal with that second year being an option for either him or the team, probably more so a team option than anything else. But, you know, if he can get a 2-year deal, but more precisely a 1-year deal, I think he's going to look to go wherever the money is the richest. So I think we have a shot. But, again, he could get priced out of our market. You know, I don't know what the Redskins' ideal situation is for spending money on a tackle, especially a rental, you know, like a Jason Peters would be. You know, it's another Band-Aid solution, as I termed it. And if they go in that direction, I don't know if the Redskins are going to be willing to pay a lot for a Band-Aid solution. If they trust their scouting department, if they trust Kyle Smith, they feel like they should be able to get somebody in the draft that can come in and maybe start right away. It's hard at the tackle position to find a guy that can start right away that doesn't get drafted in the first 2 rounds. So it'll be interesting to see what the Redskins decide to do there, especially if there's no Trent. But Redskins are definitely in the discussions, you know, in terms of Jason Peters. I just don't think he's going to end up here, though. So, but we have a chance, which is what you asked. We do have a shot, John. Really appreciate the super chat, John Saluter. Got another super chat from my man Drew, Andrew Thompson, back again. Double up, for my man Drew. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it, Drew. Drew writes, I'm hearing there is going to be a high demand for tackles in the first round, which will push some great wide receivers into the second. Any thoughts on a wide receiver that may be there if we get a second for Trent? There are going to be a number of guys that probably have first-round talent that may end up in, and let me pull out my notebook, and I'll throw out a couple of names that I've got, you know, late first round, early second round grades that will probably be there because of, you know, this draft. And wide receiver won't be the only position that sees players get pushed back because of the tackles, the quarterbacks, and some of these other positions that are going to have an abundance being drafted. But you're going to see a guy that like Justin Jefferson was a guy that started out this process. I had a early round 2 grade on him. After his combine, and you continue to watch tape, he's a mid first round draft pick now to me. And so, how high does he go? He's not going to be around in the second round, but I think a guy like T. Higgins, who originally we thought was a first round pick, I think T. Higgins could end up in the second round now out of Clemson. Like, when you think about first round wide receivers right now, Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs, and Justin Jefferson are the guys that I feel like are locks right now. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 guys right now that I feel like are stone cold locks to be first round picks at the wide receiver position. Now, after that, there's another wave of guys, T. Higgins, Laviska Shenault, and the Baylor wide receiver, he's in my notes. Hold on, give me a second. I think he ends up being Denzel Mims is his name. He ends up being a second round pick as well, and I think he's got late first round type talent when you watch him. So he's another guy that I think could easily end up in the second round. And I think he was a second round pick. I had him as a early second, but after him running that 4.39, and everyone said he was going to run fast, I needed to see it. After seeing it, I thought he could easily ascend into the first round. I don't think it's going to happen, but you got Denzel Mims as a guy that's going to be around as a second rounder. A guy that didn't work out at the combine but has intriguing talent is KJ Hamler. I want a bigger wide receiver for the Redskins. KJ Hamler is more of a slot type of receiver. He's another guy. Tyler Johnson out of Minnesota is intriguing. Brandon Ayuk is another guy. Everyone was he was the sporty name that was going to be a late first round. He's in the second round now. So these are all names. Brandon Ayuk is a second rounder now. I think T. Higgins ends up being a second rounder. Laviska Shenault could end up being a second rounder after his 40 and him having to have core muscle surgery. And so there are a number of guys that had first round grades. Laviska Shenault had a first round grade for me. Could end up in the second round. Brandon Ayuk was a guy I had late first, more second round, but late first potentially. He's going to end up in the second round. T. Higgins initially had a first round grade. I think he ends up in the second round. So these are all receivers. Denzel Mims will be there. These are all guys that are going to end up in the second round, I strongly believe, because of the way the draft is going to fall. So those are just some names to look at. And there are going to be some other guys that potentially are there as well. Jalen Reagor out of TCU. I just talked about KJ Hamler out of Penn State. These are all guys that are going to come off the board. Those are more slot receivers, though, but still names to look out for in the second round. So, thanks for the super chat, Drew. Once again, J.R. Hicksonball. Thank you for the super chat once again. Double up, for my man J.R. Hicksonball. And I think I did it for you, Drew, but in case I didn't, double up, for my man Drew with his super chat as well. Thank you for the super chat, J.R. Hicksonball. J.R. writes, one more time, sprinkle me, bitch. Sprinkle me. He said, anywho, what do you think of Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver out of Arizona State? Big fan. Keep the content coming. You have a viewer for life. Appreciate that one from J.R. Hicksonball. And I just talked about Brandon Ayuk. He's a guy that I really like in this draft. He's a return guy, has some speed. Didn't run the fastest 40. I thought he was going to run a sub 4.5. He ran I think it's like a 4.52. I got it here in my notes. Give me 1 second. He ran a 4.5 flat. So he's got some speed. On game day, he's more of a 4.48. I saw more of a 4.46 is what I had in my notes initially. What I thought he was going to run somewhere in that 4.44 to 4.47 range. He ran a 4.5 flat. He's a guy that can run. You see him get behind the defense plenty of times on tape at Arizona State. And he's a guy that has the ability to run routes. He's a guy that can return kicks for you. He's a guy that can take the top off the defense. He's also a tough guy, can go over the middle and do the dirty work as well. So really like Brandon Ayuk. I think he's a guy that is going to be one of those guys that come off the board relatively quick in the second round. We're going to have a great discussion on wide receivers next week on Draft 101 Live. So we'll do wide receivers and tight ends next week on Draft 101 Live. So make sure you tune in for that. But this week we're going to do running backs tomorrow night. So make sure you tune in for that as well. Thank you for the super chat, J.R. Hicksonball. Barrett Downing, my man, BD. Triple time for my man, BD. I see you, BD. Thank you for the super chat. BD writes, Nate Orchard played well in the end for us. Is he still with us? I don't think he is, and I don't foresee him making the roster. I think he was one of those guys that got an opportunity. I think we cut him loose late in the season. We needed a roster spot like week 16 or 17, something like that. And I think they ended up moving on from Nate Orchard. But it was a nice little story. You know, he cried after the game because he thought maybe he had a chance. I was rooting for him. I thought he should have gotten more opportunities. He really didn't get a ton of opportunities after that Panthers game. Or was it the Panthers game or was it the Lions game? I think it was the Panthers game. Either way, he didn't get many opportunities after that. So, hopefully he latches on somewhere else, but he's not with us. It was a nice story at the end of the season, but hopefully now we're at the end of our nice story, late season acquisition point. When you're good, you don't really have a lot of space for the Nate Orchards of the world. You got a roster that's ready to go. You're ready to go out and do some damage. And then if a guy goes down or two, this is where the practice squad comes into play. And you've got and again, you can't have 19 guys go down and end up on IR, or else you're going to hit the streets looking for the next Nate Orchard. Hopefully we're done with that. Hopefully we stay relatively healthy. And if, because you're going to have bumps and bruises through an NFL season. It's a war of attrition. If you run into a couple of injuries, you're hoping you got enough guys on your practice squad that you believe in that can step in, or even a couple of guys on the bench that you can have step in and have an impact, and you don't have to go on the streets looking for a Nate Orchard. Hopefully we're building a roster that is able to withstand a couple of injuries and not have to go through what we went through the last couple of years. Thank you once again, my man, Barrett Downing. Thomas Forsyth, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it, Thomas. Thank you for the super chat. Got another super chat. This one from Low Key Los. Appreciate the super chat, Low Key Los. Really appreciate it, Low Key Los. Low Key Los writes, if we can pick up a tight end in free agency, where in the draft and who do you see the Skins picking up? So, if we get a tight end, let's just go off the assumption. Let's go with the premise that Austin Hooper is the big ticket free agent acquisition for the Redskins, and they get him in day one of free agency. And that takes tight end essentially off the board in terms of any other moves. And now you feel like, all right, we can get another guy 5th round in the draft or whatever at the tight end position. We're not pressed to go after tight end right away because that guy no longer is viewed as a starter necessarily. I think and you know what? Let's take it a step further. Let's say that the Redskins in free agency get a corner. And I don't know. Let's just say the Redskins address corner with Kendall Fuller. Let's just say they go Kendall Fuller, and that's it. And that's fine. Say they go Kendall Fuller, and they go linebacker. And let's say that they go out and get, let's say they get Kwiatkowski from the Bears. Nick Kwiatkowski out of West Virginia, who played really well for the Bears when he got an opportunity when they had some injuries. Wore the green dot, played well. Let's say they go after one of those types of guys, all right? And they also get Austin Hooper. So linebacker, corner, and tight end. I think safety becomes a much bigger need than people are addressing. Safety to me and left tackle, if Trent's not going to be here, are the two positions that stick out like a sore thumb. No one's really talking about. I don't know where they stand. This is a new regime, and I really haven't heard anybody ask about Monte Nicholson and where he stands in the organization and how they feel about him. And they're probably not going to tell us how they really feel about Monte anyway. Monte's going to be on the roster, it seems like right now, or at least going to have a chance to compete. They haven't done anything. I don't know how they feel about Troy Apke. Maybe they view Troy Apke as a better football player than we've seen. I thought he did some good things and some limited snaps last year, but he's got a long way to go. This Troy Apke. Maybe safety isn't as big a need as I'm making it out to be. I just feel like it is. All right, you go out, you spend all that money on Landon Collins, and he doesn't have a tag team partner back there, it doesn't seem like. So Maybe they're able to get the most out of Monte. You know, maybe we get rookie season Monte again. I feel like we're chasing a ghost with Monte that we'll never catch. We'll never get rookie season Monte back. I think that was a flash in the pan type of deal. You know, 2 concussions later, a couple of shoulder injuries later, and some off the field issues later, he's not the same guy. All right. So I don't know if safety is as big a need as I'm making it out to be. I feel like it is. Left tackle, obviously, if there's no Trent Williams, and at this point, I'm operating as if there's no Trent Williams. That's a major need. That to me goes straight to the top of the list of needs in the offseason. It overshoots tight end too. So, but I'd like to knock tight end out so you're not using that thought process going into the draft. Like you're like, okay, got tight end out of the way, got corner out of the way. You know, got depth at linebacker out of the way, so now I can kind of just focus on some of these other positions. But remember, there's 2 things you take into consideration in the draft. One is need, but one is also value. Don't overlook value because it may be a position we don't even need. But when you're in the draft, and we keep talking about players getting pushed back. We keep talking about players getting pushed down because of all the quarterbacks and all of the tackles and offensive linemen that are going to go in the first round. And don't forget about the defensive linemen that are going to go in the first round. We can see 3 or 4 defensive linemen go. Javon Kinlaw, Derek Brown, the Blaylock kid out of TCU. You can see a number of D linemen go in the first round. So all of a sudden now that pushes down more players because you're going to see 4 or 5 receivers go in the first round. You're going to see 2, maybe 3 at most corners go in the first round. I think safety may get pushed back a bit. So as these positions get pushed back a little bit, some talent's going to fall to the top of the 3rd round if the Redskins don't acquire a 2nd round pick. Someone's going to fall that the Redskins probably didn't assume was going to be there. And it may not be a player that fits a need necessarily. But you may think to yourself, we had a late 1st round grade on this guy. What is he still doing here? We got to take him. That could be a receiver. That could be a defensive tackle. That could be a guard. It could be any position. And you may be thinking to yourself, why did you do that? We don't need that. It's all about value in the draft as well. Don't forget that. All right? So while we sit here and we mull over all the needs that the Redskins have and need to fill, don't forget about the aspect of value. Because the draft is all about getting the most value, the most bang for your pick. And if you can get a guy that you had a late 1st round grade on and he's sitting here at the top of the 3rd round, it's pretty damn hard to pass up, even if it's not a major position of need. So don't forget about that as well. Thank you for the super chat, Low Key Los. Appreciate that. Got another super chat. This one from Justin Hodge, our resident Utah Redskins fan. My man Justin Hodge, thank you for the super chat, Justin. Justin writes, it's your resident Utah Redskins fan, my man Justin. All right, Jay Hodge, he says, sorry for being absent, been a crazy 2 weeks. Hey, it's all good, it's all love. As long as everything's good, we good. And you can always catch it on playback. He says, always appreciate all that you do. I have a lot of what I'm sure is great content to catch up on, so I'll catch you later. Sounds good, man. Thank you for the blessing, Justin. And there's a ton of great content for you, waiting for you, man. And you could just go ahead and blaze them all at once, or you could take your time and work your way through. But I've been busy, all right? So if you've been gone the last couple of weeks, you've missed some really great content between all these viewers out here with these great super chats and calls and things of that nature, and us dialoguing back and forth, and some of the videos I've done outside of this. So a lot of content. You can binge it all at once, or you can work your way through, but it's all here for you, man. Appreciate the super chat, Justin Hodge. Got another super chat. This one from I Got Munson 1. Thank you for the super chat. I Got Munson 1. Greatly appreciated. I Got Munson 1 writes, what mid-round running backs have stood out to you as of late? So, got a list of running backs. We're going to talk about running backs tomorrow, as I mentioned. But there are some names that I wasn't quite focused on until the combine, and then I had to go back and do some more work on some of these running backs. And There's some guys that I have a greater appreciation for, and I got a bunch. This is a deep running back group. There's a lot of guys that I've got mid-round grades on, and I'm talking 4th round, 5th round, and there's going to be a bunch of guys. I can reel off about 3 or 4 of them for you right now. To me, I've got a mid-round grade on Zach Moss out of Utah. LaMichael P. Ryan is a guy that I've got a greater appreciation for out of Florida. I really like him. Got a mid-round grade on him as well. Keyshawn Vaughn is a guy out of Vandy. I got a 5th round grade on him. He's not as versatile as a Zach Moss or a LaMichael P. Ryan, but he's faster. He's more physical than those two, but I think you get more bang for your buck with Zach Moss or LaMichael P. Ryan. Those guys did not run well at the combine, but I don't think it takes away from what they'll be able to do at the next level. Eno Benjamin is another guy that I think you'll be able to get 3rd, 4th round. I think he's probably going to be more of a 3rd round back out of Arizona State. He's got some fumbling issues that he's got to clean up, though. You look at some more of these guys. I'm going to tell you the guy that I fell in love with over the last week or so watching tape after the combine. I was not privy to who he was going into the combine. Then he ran fast at the combine. His name started to gain some traction. I went and checked him out. And it's Darrington Evans out of App State. This dude, he's a mix between Philip Lindsay and Kenyon Drake, kind of rolled into one package. He offers you the return game. He's had a return for a touchdown in all 3 of his years that he's played in college football. Had a massive return, and he's so fun to watch out in space. When he turns on the burners, no one's catching this guy from behind. But he's more than just that kind of a guy. I think he can do a lot of things. He's, to me, the typical one cut and go back would fit perfectly in a zone run blocking scheme. I really have a firm liking and an affinity now for Darrington Evans out of App State. But as I mentioned to you, A.J. Dillon out of Boston College will be a mid-round back. Big guy, too. 250 pounds, runs a 4.5, 340. That's impressive. LaMichael P. Ryan, Zach Moss, Keyshawn Vaughn out of Vandy. These are all guys that I think will be around 4th, 5th round for you in this draft. Thank you for the super chat once again. I got Munson. Got another super chat. This one from Redskins Pride. W. Gill. Double up. For Redskins Pride. Thank you for the super chat, Redskins Pride. Redskins Pride writes, just for kicks, Strowman and Geist in 2020, Dead Sea Scrolls. Hey, man, I'm giving up on Stroh. I don't even, is he still with the squad? Giving up on Stroh, man. As for Geist, though, man, I really think this is the year for him. This is the year that he stays healthy, and we see what this guy really is all about. And we'll see what he's able to do, but he's got to stay healthy. We know the talent's there. We've seen flashes. We saw the Carolina game. We saw the early portion of Green Bay before the injury. We know this guy is capable, man. So I'm just waiting for him to stay healthy. And I think this is the year that it finally happens. But Strowman, I've given up on Stroh, man. I really have. So let's see. Thank you for the super chat. MAF Reactions. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, MAF Reactions. Got another super chat from my man, Drew. Andrew Thompson. That's your 3rd of the night. Man, really appreciate you, Drew. Appreciate what you do. Drew writes, let's put you in charge of pro personnel for a sec. Who are your top 5 free agent targets for the Redskins in particular, or are you talking overall? I assume you're talking Redskins in particular, so that's the assumption I'm going to make, and that's what I'm going to go off of. For the Redskins, you might be surprised who my top target would be. I've told you this from the jump. Now, I don't know if I'm fond of the price tag that's going to come along with him, but in this league, if you want premium talent and free agency, you got to pay premium price in dollar for that talent. So you can't be cheap in free agency and expect to get huge results. That's generally not how free agency works. If you want a good product, you're usually going to have to pay for it. So my first guy would be Anthony Harris out of Minnesota, the safety. I've told you that I really like this guy. I think he is a perfect fit for what we want to do schematically. It would allow Landon Collins to be closer to the line of scrimmage. This guy is a true free safety in every sense of the word. Watching him last year was a joy in Minnesota, which is why they want to keep him so desperately. He would be my number one target, but you're looking at every bit of $13 million for this guy. That's a lot of money. We just spent a ton of money, which is why I don't think we're going to do it. You just spent a ton of money on Landon Collins. Are you really going to spend that much money at the safety position on two players? Like, I don't see the Redskins spending that kind of bread on the safety position again 2 years in a row, but he'd be at the top of my list. Then I think I would go Austin Hooper second as my second free agent acquisition. I really think the Redskins would need to beef up tight end. It's no secret. It's a really big need for this team. We don't really have anything on the roster to speak of right now, and I think he would fit a huge void for this football team. Third, it would be Chris Harris Jr., corner out of Denver. I think that he's another guy that I would really try to bring here to Washington. Again, these are my guys. This is my wish list. These guys may not want anything to do with the Redskins. Okay, some of these guys really value winning. We haven't done a lot of it over the last decade and 20 years, really. Excuse me. And so they may not be interested coming here. They've been able to view the Redskins from the outside looking in. It looks like a train wreck outside. If there's smoke coming outside, the fire is probably much hotter inside. Even though we've got a new regime, they probably think that this is a dysfunctional organization. They may not want to play here. That being said, Chris Harris Jr. would be my third guy. And my fourth guy would be Emmanuel Sanders, the wide receiver out of the San Francisco 49ers. I just feel like we need a veteran to come in. I don't want to spend money on Amari Cooper, or I don't want to break the bank for a guy like Robbie Anderson from the Jets. I think he's going to get paid a bunch of money. I'm more interested in a veteran that can come in and show these young boys the ropes. You know, you think Terry's good now? Imagine him getting with a professional like E-Man saying. I think the sky would really be the limit for Terry. If you think he's really good now, let him get with a guy that's going to really get him to hone in on his craft. Like, I've watched Emmanuel Sanders from afar, and I really respect what he does with young wide receivers. He pulls these guys aside. He takes them to, Florida, works out with these guys, takes them to Texas. I've watched him take these young receivers under his wing. You want to know why there was a huge jump in year 1 to year 2 for Cameron Sutton out in Denver? Look no further than... it's not Cameron Sutton. It's Sutton. I can't remember his first name. But you want to know why it was such a big jump? E-Man Sand is the reason. Taught that guy how to be a professional. And there was talent there. But I would love it if E-Man Sand were to come here. So he would be number 4 on my list of free agents for the Redskins. And then the 5th free agent for me with this Redskins football team would be a Corey Littleton type. A linebacker to come in here, because I really still am not sold on the whole Reuben Foster thing. I'd like to fill that void for this football team. So I'd go with the linebacker. And it didn't necessarily have to be a Corey Littleton. There are other guys out there available. As you see on the screen, I got Christian Kirksey on the screen. He's a little bit older than a Corey Littleton, but you get where I'm going with this. Athletically gifted linebacker that comes in here. I wouldn't want to really break the bank on a linebacker per se, which is why Nick Kwiatkowski makes a lot of sense. Somebody like that could easily be a target. A Joe Schobert or someone like that could be a target for the Redskins. But we'll see what happens and what the Redskins decide to do. But those would be my top 5 free agent targets. There are other positions that the Redskins could look at. I'm not really too big on going out and acquiring a running back, as you've heard the Redskins potentially rumored to do. I look at some of these other positions and some of these other guys out there. I just feel like those would be the guys I would go after. All of them relatively young, all of them going into the prime of their careers, with the exception of E-Man Sand and Chris Harris Jr. But at those particular positions, I feel like having a veteran come in that knows the ropes, that could show some of our younger guys how to do this at a high level, I think would be probably more value than going out and getting another young guy. So that's where I stand on that. But thanks for the super chat, Drew, once again. J.R. Hicksonball, back again. I believe this is your 3rd time, so I'm going to just triple up for you here. But appreciate you, JR Hickson Ball. Might be in your second time. We're just going to do both. Double up. But I really think it's your third time. But either way, JR writes, thank you once again. We need another QB. What do you think about James Morgan from Florida International? I'm mixed on James Morgan, man. I was high on him. I talked about him on my quarterback video last Wednesday or Thursday on the first installment of Draft 101 live. And he's a guy that it's certain games that get you excited about James Morgan. You know, when you watch him versus Arkansas State in the final game he played of his collegiate career in that bowl game, you're like, man, this guy's impressive. When you watch him against Miami, you're like, man, James Morgan, man, he's being slept on. And then you watch him in some other games, like against Louisiana Tech, you're like, yo, what the hell are you doing, James? Like, there's some games in there, or Tulane, you're like, yo, James, bruh, what's going on here? So there's some games where you watch him and you're like, man, this guy's pretty impressive. And there's some other games where you watch him and you're like, bro, really? Seriously? You're going to do that? So I've got my ups and downs with James Morgan. To me, he's a late round draftable quarterback, 5th, 6th, 7th round, somewhere in there. He'll probably hear his name called, but he's rising up draft boards. He probably could hear his name as early as the 4th round. I think he's a back end of the draft, 5th, 6th, 7th round type of guy. We'll see what happens with him. Thank you for the super chat. 316 CTW, 316 CTW. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciated. Thank you for your contribution, 316 CTW. 316 CTW writes, hey man, huge fan. Love what you've been doing. I consume so much Redskins. So glad we have people like you to keep us in the fold. He says, please keep going through the dead part of the season. Much love. Thank you for your super chat. You know I'm not going to quit, man. I'm going to keep bringing y'all this fire content. Continue to keep you guys in the loop. Continue to make sure that anything and anything Redskins is talked about here, because I'm trying to create that platform and a place where we can come together as fans and discuss this team. And so I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to continue to bless you guys with the content. And all I ask in return is that you guys continue to bless me with your contributions and your viewership. So I really appreciate what you guys do. And I'm definitely going to continue to bring content your way. Thank you for the super chat, 316 CTW, 316 CTW. Thank you again for the super chat. So that is the last super chat as of right now. So I thank you guys for that. If we get any more, we'll read those. But got an incoming call, so I'm going to go ahead and take that. And I got another super chat, but we'll come back to that super chat and answer this call. You're on live with your man, Louis T. Who am I speaking with?
Mark Molnix.
Hey, what's going on, Mark?
Not much. Do you think they'll still go with Chase Young on the second?
Yes.
Okay. I would love that. Who do you think, if we would go with the quarterback and free agent, who do you think would be good?
So we kind of talked about that earlier. If the Redskins decide to go with the quarterback in free agency, which I think is a realistic possibility, we don't know the status of Alex Smith. I have said this all along. I don't think he'll ever play again. But if they feel like he isn't close to playing, they're going to have to do something. It's going to be a veteran quarterback. You know, as I mentioned, it's going to be one of those Chase Daniel, Brett Hundley types. One of these guys that has established themselves as a backup in this league, not going to challenge Dwayne to start. I think it's going to be one of those kinds of guys. As I mentioned, don't be surprised if the Redskins make a push for Kyle Allen, the quarterback that played for the Panthers this year. He knows Ron Rivera. He also knows Scott Turner's system, as he was with Scott Turner last year. So a lot of times when a new offensive coordinator comes in, you want to bring in a backup quarterback that knows your system so that he can help teach the other quarterbacks. It helps speed up the process and teach other players. So I wouldn't be shocked if a Kyle Allen is a dark horse to become a guy that the Redskins target as a free agent quarterback either.
Oh, because it's funny because a lot of people are like, you still have Alex Smith? I was like, I was like, Alex Smith will never play football ever again. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think he will either. I think he is a long shot. I won't count him out, but I think it's a long shot that he ever plays again.
I think he would be good in quarterback coach or something.
Yeah,
He can help the quarterbacks very well.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something he wants to do or not, but from all reports, he's been great with all the young quarterbacks he's been around. Patrick Mahomes, Dwayne Haskins spoke very glowingly of him last year. So, by all accounts, he's great in the locker room. He's a great guy to be around, and he really helps these guys a lot. So, if that's something that he would want to do, it doesn't sound like something he wants to do, but you never know what the future holds for some of these guys. But hey, anyway, Mark, thanks for the call, man. You take it easy. Yep. All right. So back to the super chats. Got one from Damn Twin Shorty Sublime. Double up. For Damn Twin Shorty Sublime. Thank you for the super chat. Damn Twin writes, if Ron says he wants to bring in a very competitive QB to push Dwayne, why are we not hearing anything about who that might be? I'm thinking Mariota. That's the guy that I've said. That's as high as it, and I said that earlier tonight. The highest I think they will go with a very competitive quarterback is Marcus Mariota. Now, how much are you going to have to pay Marcus Mariota? How much are the Redskins willing to spend at the quarterback position? Does this depend on how much they spend elsewhere, whether it's tight end, corner, safety, backer, wherever, wide receiver? Is that dependent on what they spend, as to how they address quarterback? I don't know. These are all questions we are going to have to wait. And we don't have to wait much longer to find out the answers to, but we're going to see. But to me, very competitive means Marcus Mariota. That's as high as you go. But again, I don't think they want to bring in that kind of competitive quarterback because the heat on Dwayne will be turned up extremely high. And that's the one position. And I know we live in this environment and we live in this day and age of competition. You got to push guys. Competition. But the one position you don't want competition at in the NFL is quarterback. You want the guy and nobody else. Okay? You don't want to be yo-yoing quarterbacks in and out. You don't want your guy looking over his shoulder. I can go back to my days playing basketball. And I could remember when I was coming off the bench, you played the game in a way where if you made a mistake, you were always looking over at the scores table. Is he coming for me now? And so you play uptight. You don't go out and play your game because you're playing the game not to get pulled out of the game. So you're playing not to make a mistake. And when you play not to make mistakes, you usually make more mistakes. Have you ever tried to tiptoe around the house and not make noise? You ultimately end up making more noise. At the quarterback position, you're not looking to push Dwayne with the best quarterback you can find and try to, diamonds, pressure makes diamonds. Like, we're not looking for that, not at the quarterback position. When you push a guy like that, you usually end up making a guy feel the pressure and make mistakes. What you're trying to do is cultivate an environment that makes Dwayne comfortable. He's already had to deal with enough media scrutiny as it is. Build this guy up. Give him a chance. And so I don't see a Mariota. I don't. But I told you, tonight, that's as high as very competitive goes for me. If the Redskins are thinking very competitive, Mariota is to me the absolute baseline. That's the highest they can go. Now, for me, I think it's going to be a lower tier quarterback. I think it's going to be more of someone that has established themselves as a backup in this league, and they're not really going to threaten Dwayne. He's not going to feel like I may lose my job to this guy if I don't play well. Whereas with a Mariota, if Dwayne comes out and struggles, and Mariota's still young enough that if Dwayne isn't playing very well and they go to Mariota, he lights it up. He's seen what could happen. Where you go get a quarterback, you bring him in as a backup, the incumbent starter doesn't play well, and that backup comes in and lights it up, and you don't get your job back. He's seen that firsthand. It happened to him last year. So in his mind, he's thinking, I could sign somewhere as a backup, but if I get an opportunity and I shine, that could be my job. And he's young enough to still be a franchise quarterback in this league. So that's why I don't think that makes a lot of sense here, although it could make a lot of sense if they truly are looking for very competitive competition for Dwayne, but I just don't see it. Anyhow, thank you for the super chat, damn twin. Lorenzo Simpson, my man Zoe, thank you for the super chat, Zoe. Really appreciate it. Lorenzo Simpson, my man Zoe writes, elite front four makes average DBs look like Pro Bowlers. Absolutely. Which is why I don't think the Redskins plan on spending a ton of money at the cornerback position in free agency. That's why I'm starting to lean towards them taking a much more frugal approach, a more calculated approach, if you will. Frugal makes them sound like Bruce Allen. I think they're going to take a more calculated approach where they say, you know what? Because of the type of pressure we think we're going to generate with Chase Young and Montez Sweat and the Bama Wall and Matt Ioannidis and Tim Settle, because we think we're going to generate, and Kerrigan, because we think we're going to generate consistent pressure, not even really having to blitz a lot of times, we're going to invest less in the secondary. And because we spent so much draft capital on the front four, we're going to just continue to make sure that that's where a lot of the resources are. So, yeah, that's kind of the reason why of late I've been leaning towards James Bradbury not being here and him getting that money from somebody else, other than us. Thank you for the super chat, Zoe. Damn twin, Shorty Sublime, back at it again, tripling up. I appreciate you, damn twin. Really appreciate the super chat once again. My man, damn twin, Shorty Sublime, he says, caller stole my thunder, LOL. All good, but I thought Carolina re-signed Kyle Allen already. I'm not sure. They may have. I haven't been following a lot of the off-season signings unless they've been really big ones. I've been so heavily invested and entrenched in draft film that I've been missing a lot of the low-key signings. A lot of you said, the tight end that I was talking about, Darren Fells, is going back to Houston. He may be. I may have missed that. And let me clear something else up. On my video, and I saw a lot of you said this, and I misspoke because I knew this. But let me clear this up now. I said that the Redskins had a 6th round pick. I told you guys the Redskins had 7 picks now with the compensatory pick. All right. And then I proceeded to name 8 picks. So it's not like I didn't know. But let me reiterate this. The Redskins have a 1st, a 3rd, 2 4s, a 5th, and 2 7ths. Okay? They do not have a 2nd, and they do not have a 6th. They lost the 6th round pick to the Broncos in the Case Keenum deal. Okay? So just wanted to make sure I reiterated that because a lot of you in the comments were making sure that you let me know that we didn't have a 6th round pick. And you're right. You were spot on. And I misspoke. I told you we had 7, and then I then promptly mentioned 8 picks. But there's 7. Total, I think when it's all said and done, the Redskins are going to end up with 8 because I do expect them at some point to trade Trent Williams. But I don't know if Carolina already signed Kyle Allen or not. He's a restricted free agent. So they have a chance to put a tender on him and get a draft pick for him. So I would think that if they really wanted him back, they would just re-sign him. But if they wanted to dangle him out there to see if another team would be interested, they could put a 2nd or a 3rd round tender on him. And so we'll see how that goes. He may already have re-signed in Carolina. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But thank you for the super chat. Once again, J.R. Hicksonball. My man J.R. With the super chat. I'm going to go with this is your 3rd one. This could be your 4th one. So we're just going to go back and forth. Because I'm not sure anymore, JR. But I appreciate the super chat. JR writes, Ron is lighting a fire under Haskins' ass just to see what Haskins can really do. Haskins is going to come out firing this year, period. I believe that I don't necessarily know if lighting a fire under his ass is what he's doing. I know he's making sure he's staying motivated. And if lighting a fire under his ass is how you want to term it, that's fine. It may be all the same thing. I just think he wants to make sure that, and we've heard this repeated over and over again, that, you know, Dwayne's got to be the first one in, last one to leave. He's got to be in the building. He's got to be very present. He's been that all season. Ron has gave him glowing remarks about being in the building, being around. And so I think Dwayne understands what he has to do. Doug Williams has come out and said that he's talked to Dwayne on numerous occasions and told him what he has to do. Bottom line is, I think Dwayne, he said on IG that this season is personal for him because, and I think he understands all the naysayers, all the people that have come out bashing him, all of the reports about this and that. He's ready to silence all the critics. You know, all the people that said he couldn't do it, that he wasn't worthy of a first round pick, all the people that said he shouldn't be the Redskins quarterback, the Redskins should draft Tua, all of that stuff. He hears all of the noise, and he's ready to silence it. And I think he's going to come out, and he's going to play really well this season. I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping that is the case. And I'm thinking that he's going to prove once and for all that he is franchise quarterback material and put the whole quarterback discussion to bed and to rest. And now we can start focusing in on other positions to surround our young quarterback moving forward. So I'm hoping that is the case. We'll see what happens. But thank you for the super chat, JR Hicksonball. Cooper Gorman. Thank you for the super chat, Cooper Gorman. Really appreciate the super chat. Cooper writes, did you see the report that the Skins are engaged in contract talks with Flowers? If we get him signed, should we also extend Scherff and pay 2 guards? Yes, I saw the report. I don't necessarily know if I read that they were in discussions with him. I do know that I read they would like him back along with John Bostic. So, yes, look, Scherff is priority number 1 at guard. What they do with Flowers has no impact, no bearing whatsoever on Scherff. He's going to be back. The question isn't whether Scherff is going to be back. It's whether Scherff and Flowers is going to be back. Scherff is going to be back. I'm still a little critical of whether he's going to be back or not. I question whether they're going to re-sign Eric Flowers. They may want to, but the Redskins may think that Eric Flowers is worthy of a deal worth, $7 million a year, and he may think he's worth a deal worth $9 million, and there may be an impasse. The Redskins may want to pay him $8 million, and he may want to be paid $8 million a year, which is, I think, more along the lines of what he should get, 7 or 8. And the Redskins may be looking at him as a $6.5 million guy, and he may be thinking, I need 8. And so there could be a little bit of a financial impasse there. And trust me, if he gets to free agency, he probably could score his 7, 8, maybe even $9 million, And maybe the Redskins aren't willing to go but so high with him. So, again, we'll see. Because you got to keep in mind, I know a lot of Redskins fans, and I read this in the comment section, and this is where some of you are naive in thinking that because a guy had success here, and Eric Flowers said it himself, this is the first year of his career in the NFL where he actually enjoyed playing. All right? He had fun playing for the Redskins. We were 3-13 last year, and he had fun because he actually played well. And what he was doing was actually being respected by the fans. This was the first time this has occurred in his career. But just because he had a really good season and he enjoyed himself doesn't mean he's looking to take a pay cut to stay here. Okay? The NFL stands for not for long. This man was 1 foot out of the door in the league. The Redskins gave him a chance. He resurrected his career at a different position. Don't think for 1 second that because the Redskins gave him a chance and helped resurrect his career, he owes them anything. Because he doesn't. He doesn't. It's not like he was out of the league for 2 years and the Redskins gave him a chance. That'd be a little different. He was with the Jacksonville Jaguars before he got to the Redskins last year. He was in the league. Somebody else, if not the Redskins, was going to give him a chance to play guard. It just so happens that we gave him the chance first. It worked. He had success. Now he's got a chance to get paid. Trust me, he's looking to get every single penny that he can. He's not going to stay here for $6 million per if he can go out on the free agent market and get $9 million per. All right? So understand that. If a 3-year, $27 million deal is out there for Eric Flowers and the Redskins are offering him 6 years, $20 million, he's going to go to free agency and get that 3-year, $27 million deal. All right? That's $7 million extra with probably 3 or 4 more guaranteed $1 million extra that's out there that he can get his hands on. He's going to go get his hands on that. So don't think for 1 second, and I read that in the comment section, that, there was this whole notion that the Redskins resurrected his career and he had fun and so he wants to be here. Yeah, he may want to be here. He also wants to be paid. So I don't think him getting a deal impacts Scherff whatsoever. Scherff is priority number 1 at guard, and Flowers falls in line after that. If the Redskins are able to strike a deal with Flowers, that's great. They may have both of those guys back. But they're going to have Scherff back regardless of what happens with Eric Flowers. I still don't think Flowers is going to be back. I've said that all offseason. I've contended that. I'm sticking with that, even though there has been a lot more conversation of late that the Redskins want Eric Flowers back. It went from 0 conversation to 100 in the last week or so. We'll see. Look, I've always heard this. A wise man once told me, deadlines spur action. And as we get closer and closer to the start of free agency, it seems like the Redskins are starting to amp up their activity with some of their own guys, like a John Bostic and an Eric Flowers. We'll see what happens with those players. So, thank you for the super chat, Cooper Gorman. Really appreciate that. Got another super chat. This one from my man JP. What's going on, JP? Really appreciate the super chat. John Perez, my man JP, writes, if we go get a linebacker in free agency, give me Blake Martinez from Green Bay. Love his game. He's so underrated. Maybe get cornerback Chris Harris too. Good call. Good pull by JP. Blake Martinez is a tackling machine in Green Bay with the Packers. He's athletically gifted. He's not the most athletically gifted guy, but he can run at the middle linebacker position. But his claim to fame is that he's durable, and he's all over the field, and he tackles anything that's moving. All right, I think he's led the Packers in tackles the last 2 or 3 years. Quietly, he's one of the better tackling linebackers in all of football. You're right about that. I think it's also going to come with a bit of a price tag for Blake Martinez. How much of a price tag? I'm not sure what his market value actually is at this point. It's not going to reach Corey Littleton status. Like on sportstrack.com, I looked at Corey Littleton's market value, and it was $12.75 million. So you're talking about $13 million per season for Corey Littleton at the linebacker position. I'm good. It's not going to cost that much for Blake Martinez, but Blake might get 9, per year. Blake might get 8. And I wouldn't be mad at that because if you told me the Redskins signed Blake Martinez 4 years, $32 million, I wouldn't be mad at that at all. He's a really good football player, and he doesn't miss games, and he's a tackling machine. I like Blake Martinez a lot. So he's another name to look out for as well. And I think Green Bay would be making a very critical mistake if they don't find a way to bring him back, to be honest with you. But we shall see. Really good pull there, JP. And Chris Harris Jr. is definitely a guy on my radar, but I think he's going to ultimately end up elsewhere. I do think that we do have this going for us with a couple of guys in free agency. Chris Harris Jr. being one of them. That we have a guy that they've worked with in the past, and they've made it a point of emphasis to say, I want to go somewhere where I'm going to be utilized properly. Jack Del Rio knows how to use Chris Harris Jr. And if Chris Harris Jr. is willing to come here and we're willing to meet his financial demands, he's a guy that could end up in Washington. I don't think the Redskins are going to overspend in free agency at the cornerback position. Let me say that again. I'm starting to be of the mindset that the Redskins are going to kind of cut a corner, so to speak, at the cornerback position. They're not going to overspend because they're so confident in what they're going to be able to do up front with their defense. I don't think they're looking to overspend at corner or safety at this point. And so I don't think they're going to spend big free agent dollars on corner or safety. I think they're going to look to reallocate those funds elsewhere, a la tight end, maybe linebacker, maybe offensive line. Who's to say what they decide to do? But I think you're going to see them go in a different direction They're going to get a corner, I think. I just don't think they're going to spend big dollars. They may spend big money on a wide receiver for all I know, but I don't think it's going to actually be on a corner. I think they're going to trust that they're going to be able to generate pressure up front and allow the secondary to eat off of the pressure that is presented by the front four. So we'll see what happens. Got another super chat. This one from Martin Matthews. Thank you for the super chat, Martin Matthews. Greatly appreciate the super chat. Double M. Martin Matthews writes, "Hey Louie, as always, your show is on point. Danny Johnson, Jimmy Moreland, and Fabian are all edge corners. Who do you see as getting more specialized as a slot? Free agency or draft, if there is one?" I agree with you on all three of those corners being boundary corners. Neither one of those guys have proven that they have success in the slot. Jimmy Moreland, I think, was starting to get a little bit better, but I think he's much more comfortable on the outside than he is on the inside. And not everybody's cut out for the slot, as I've told you many a times. So who could be some corners that we target in free agency for the slot? As I mentioned, we could bring one of our old guys home in Kendall Fuller. I think if we were to go out and get him, I think we would put him back in the slot where he probably belongs. I don't know what Kansas City was doing with him, I know I saw him outside as a boundary corner. I was never impressed with him here in Washington as a boundary corner. More impressed with him as a slot and as a nickel. He's a guy, but the reason I wanted Chris Harris Jr. so much is because, to me, the slot is almost as, if not more important than a boundary corner because of the way the NFL is played now and the way teams try to take advantage of the nickel. That's the guy that wins usually the most immediately. So if I'm a quarterback and I know you're trying to heat me up on 3rd and 7, I'm looking to my slot guy to win right away. Whether you stick a tight end in there or you stick a shifty slot guy, that's been the move in the NFL, is to put one of your better receivers in the slot. Hell, we're seeing guys that are number ones kick inside on 3rd downs as, the slot and win inside on 3rd down. So your nickel is really important. Your slot guy is really important. And that's why I'm so big on Chris Harris Jr., because he fills a huge void for this team at the nickel/slot position, which is a big fill in this league. So he's a guy that we talked about. We also talked about the cornerback from the Tennessee Titans, Ryan Logan, as another guy that could potentially fit if he's not back in Tennessee, as another corner that could potentially be out there as a nickel that could come in and help right away. In the draft, there are some nickels. I'll go down my list of guys that I think have a chance to be some solid nickels at the next level. Trajan Bandy out of Miami is a guy that I think ultimately will be a nickel in the league. Jeff Gladney might end up being a nickel. Right now he's a boundary corner, but I think he's going to be more of a nickel at the next level. Let's see. I was really impressed with John Reed at the Combine. I don't know if he has the ability to kick inside, but he had some sweet feet, some really loose and fluid hips, and he ran well. So he's another guy that I think could probably kick inside as a nickel at the next level. So those are just some names of some guys that could potentially be some options as nickels. There are other guys that may emerge as I get deeper in my process looking at some of these corners, but those are just some names right off the bat that I can give you right now. But and I think I might have a couple more. Let me check my other list of corners before we move on. But the cornerback position, it's tough to find nickels, and that's why I prefer a veteran, a guy that I know can do it, versus going out and getting a young guy. Those are the ones right now that jump off the page at me as corners that may be able to play the nickel. So we'll see what happens. I like I said, 3 guys in free agency that will potentially be available. Chris Harris Jr. probably outside the Redskins price range if we go with the premise that the Redskins aren't looking to overspend in the secondary. Then I think a guy like Kendall Fuller is more in their price range and in their wheelhouse. And maybe Logan Ryan is as well. And I don't know what his asking price will be and how much he's going to be looking to get on the market. But he could be another option for the Redskins potentially in free agency as well. Let's see. All right, so that's the last super chat. I'll start reading off some comments as there are no calls right now. Mark McKnight, I already explained that the Redskins do not have a 6th round pick, but I appreciate you for reiterating that. Let's see. Alex Smith says, do you think I will be the starting quarterback next year? No, I don't think you will be the starting quarterback next year. All right. Got another comment. This one from David the Real Thomas. He says, Wes Martin played much better on the right side than the left. I agree with that. You know, when you got to see him late in the season taking over for Scherff, he played really well early in the preseason. And some of that had to do with just being new and adjusting to the speed of the game and some of the power that these guys have at the next level. He was no longer in the Big Ten. So he struggled right out of the gate because we saw more of him at left guard, which was his natural position at what college did he come from? Not Wisconsin. It was one of those, Indiana. And so naturally he was a left guard, but I, like you, felt like he was much better at right guard, you know, at the end of the season. Does that make a huge difference? Maybe, maybe not. Look, at the end of the day, Ron Rivera said it best. In this league, the more you can do, the more likely it is you stick around, especially along the offensive line. If you could play right guard, you better be able to play left guard, and it'd be nice if you could play some center too. So, yeah, I believe that he did play better at right guard, but he's got to be able to play all of those positions, really, to be honest. Got a call, going to go ahead and take it. Oh, missed the call. Anyhow, it is 10:22. We are closing in on 2 hours on the program, and I think that's when we'll stop. So, as a matter of fact, I have no more comments. I got no more calls. So I think we're going to get out of here. And so, going to be live tomorrow, Draft 101 live, talking running backs tomorrow night. So feel free to join me then. And we'll be talking about the running back position ad nauseum tomorrow. Next week will be crazy for this channel in terms of the Redskins because there will be so many different things. My free agency coverage overall will be a wall-to-wall, but in particular with this team, anything that happens Redskins related, you know I'm going to come on and bless you guys with some content. So be on the lookout next week. We'll probably go live multiple times. I do know next Wednesday night, I do have an obligation. So I don't know if I'll be able to go live Wednesday night or not. If I am able to go live Wednesday night, it will be either much earlier or much later, probably the latter of the two, much later. It may not be feasible for me to go live at all on Wednesday, but where there's a will, there's a way. I will figure out a way to get to you guys, especially if more news is coming out. So either way, we're going to be really busy next week because free agency gets kicked off, and you're going to see, I think, the Redskins be pretty aggressive early on, trying to get a couple of guys that they have targeted as guys that they want to add to their roster. So look forward to being very aggressive next week with my content, as I assume the Redskins will be very aggressive with their approach to free agency. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louis T. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. As always, another fantastic show from you guys. It was great chopping it up with you, and a lot of great comments, a lot of great questions, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the Redskins decide to do. And you guys stay safe out there. Corona is everywhere. The hysteria is crazy. March Madness is in jeopardy. NBA season could be in jeopardy. everything is crazy right now, and football is still going forward, man. So I'm your man, Louis T, signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage it could be. And also remember, I am a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Redskins spirit will never die. Redskins spirit will never fold until we meet again. Hail to our beloved Redskins. Thank you guys for another great show. I'll see you next time. You guys take care. Have a good one.
Louis T Network.